Welcome to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft, the founder and CEO of Judith Heft and Associates, Financial and Lifestyle Concierge. This year, she's celebrating 27 years in business. In every episode, Judy interviews professionals who help others successfully manage their financial lives. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Judy is the author of 2 books, How to Be Smart, Successful, and Organized with Your Money for a Better Today and Tomorrow, and her latest book, Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles, How to Successfully Manage Money in Every Decade of Life. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Now, here's the host of Mastering Your Financial Life, Judy Heft.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to episode 81 of Mastering Your Financial Life. And today I'm really excited and thrilled to be here with Anthony Verna. Anthony is an intellectual property lawyer and advertising lawyer, and that's kind of mysterious. So we're going to get into it. He's going to explain it all to us. But he focuses on trademarks, patents, and copyrights. And Anthony does more than that, too. He collaborates with his clients to help them create ideas and to help them protect those ideas because, you know, we all get these great ideas and then we realized that years ago someone else had the same idea and then we're in trouble. So it's really helpful to have someone like Anthony on your side. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Judy. You know, maybe I should just say, black magic voodoo lawyer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wait, we don't want to scare too many people away.
No,
here.
no, of course not. Of course not. No.
So, what does intellectual property have to do with the valuation of a business? And maybe before you answer that, you can tell us what is intellectual property.
Yeah, I'll gladly take that step back. Intellectual property is anything that is intangible to a business. So, not necessarily ideas, but when those ideas are put into action. So if you have an idea and you affix it to paper and you have yourself a book or you have yourself some advertising, that falls under copyright law. If you create some products and you have a line of products, then you start branding them. Branding falls under trademarks. And if those products are new and novel, those products can be protected, or those new and novel creations and inventions can be protected by patents. So it's those things that are very ephemeral to our life. We don't necessarily talk about money unless something has a valuation to it in IP law. We don't necessarily, it's not insurance. It's not, these things that we're used to every single day. That's not what we do. What we do is certainly very ephemeral, but yet has valuation for the business.
Oh, that's great. That's a good explanation. It helps me know what intellectual and not so intellectual. So what does it have to do with the valuation of a business?
Well, a lot of businesses have some kind of intellectual property attached to it, be it the branding. That certainly is one aspect that falls under trademark law. A lot of businesses have some kind of advertising copy that falls under copyright law. A lot of businesses create audio and visual works, just like this one would be an audio visual work that falls under copyright law. Like I said, a lot of businesses create inventions, products that are new and novel to life. And so those new and novel inventions can fall under patent law and be protected. A lot of times businesses advertise and they get spokespeople, and those spokespeople have rights, name, image, and likeness rights. Domain names can fall under trademark law. All of this ephemeral stuff that businesses create, pack on top of one another, all of that has some kind of value to it, and a lot of businesses don't put it on the asset sheet. And I understand why. For a lot of businesses, there's maybe not much value in if you're a local dry cleaner, for example, the name of your company. But, if you're a company that's reaching across 3 or 4 states, even if you don't have a registered trademark, there's some branding associated to it and some value associated with the branding as well.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I remember years and years ago, actually, it was before I met you, someone took a big chunk of my website and
Mhm.
copied it. They copied the whole thing, the graphic and all the verbiage, and they were out in California and they put it on their website. And I don't really remember because it was probably closer to 20 years ago how I
Right.
discovered it. But I was so annoyed that this person was so blatant. I think she tried to connect with me on LinkedIn or something. So I looked at her website. Not a smart thing to do. Anyway, I did have to hire a lawyer for a cease and desist, and she did take it down. But
Sure.
I was insulted. And I
Oh
wish I had
no,
known you about it. Maybe, it would have been a step further.
I mean, the strategy when you find something that is copied depends upon the business. So for example, I've got a client that's a plush toy company. They discovered that somebody was counterfeiting, their stuff, selling the exact same toys that they did. Every toy in that particular instance falls under copyright law. Each of those toys was registered with the Library of Congress. So we had copyright registrations for every toy. And of course, the trademark was registered as well. So we were able to figure out who was selling. We did send cease and desist letters to everybody who was selling, heard back from nobody. And we filed a lawsuit for copyright infringement, trademark infringement, and what we call trademark counterfeiting, which is a special type of trademark infringement as well. They eventually showed up to court, surprisingly, and wrote my client a check to kind of go away, and we of course forced them to go away as well. And surprisingly went up the line to the factory in China, because we discovered which factory was creating those works, and the factory actually took them off of their website, surprisingly. So they certainly got some word up the line as to what was going on. So yeah, I mean, every strategy is a little different. And I've certainly had plenty of clients who, want a cease and desist letter written to somebody who's copying, and then, the person copying, goes away, and we all walk away happy. Yeah. Every strategy is a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then you never know what you're going to have to do. And it's good
Correct.
to have someone like you that really understands all the ins and outs, because,
Well,
there's
thank
so
you.
much out there. We don't know what we don't know, in other words.
Well,
So,
that's true. I mean, and sometimes I don't know what I don't know as well. And sometimes you send a cease and desist letter to somebody, and you don't know how they're going to react. I've certainly had my fair share of terrible reactions from somebody who's not represented, who receives a demand letter, and picks up the phone, calls, and yells at my receptionist. Don't call and yell at my receptionist. They didn't do anything. I did it.
exactly.
But don't really
Shoot
yell at
the
me either.
messenger.
I mean,
Yeah, you don't shoot the messenger. Sometimes when I'm mad at someone, that's an interesting point, Anthony, because sometimes when I'm annoyed with someone on the phone, or, a customer service rep, and I have to always say, this is not about you. I know that you had nothing to do with this. I'm just annoyed. And then, that makes them feel a little better, because,
Sure.
it's sometimes you just get riled up about certain things.
No, of course, and I understand that, but yeah, you just never know. There are times when it's impossible for me to know what a recipient how that person is going to react. We could do our research as best as possible to find assets, to see if that person has assets, but that doesn't necessarily mean that person is a level-headed person. So there's plenty that I don't know. I do try to do some homework if we're going to be sending a letter to somebody, to at least figure out if they're represented by counsel in other matters. Especially if we're talking IP matters, it's pretty easy to see if somebody has a registered trademark and if they have counsel. This way we can anticipate a response from a level-headed lawyer instead of a hot-headed recipient. Stuff like that. We try to do our homework on, so that we have some idea as to what we're going into. It doesn't always work, though.
Right. So are you able to work nationally and internationally too? I mean, with your type, because I know some lawyers, they're admitted in New York, Connecticut, yes, wherever else. But what about something like you? It's more international.
Well, sure. So I'm admitted in New York and New Jersey. And so when we're talking, straight up litigation, I'm admitted New York, New Jersey. Our of counsel is licensed Washington, Oregon, and California. So we certainly have had cases in federal courts in all 5 states. So from a litigation standpoint, yes, we are particularly limited. From a prosecution standpoint, so in other words, filing a patent, a trademark, or a copyright, we do have clients throughout the nation, and yes, throughout the world as well. And that's because if you need it filed, we can get that done. That the rules on that don't particularly change because it is federal law. There are some differences from what we call circuit to circuit. The federal appeals courts have interpreted, say, the statute of limitations very differently depending upon where you are. And so that can be a little challenging, even for those of us licensed in different states. But that's the nature of the beast in the U.S.
So also, I know that you've done some work with, in the comic book industry, and I think I heard a little sneaky thing one day. Someone said something about Anthony's really changed the comic book industry. So do you want to elaborate on that and fill me in?
Sure. So years ago, I represented a comic book artist. I'll say artist, writer. Depending upon what he was hired for, sometimes he did some what they call inking, because you draw a comic and then you fill in the colors as well. So he kind of did he's done a lot in the comic book industry. He was hired by Archie Comics in order to write for the Sonic the Hedgehog comic. At the time, Sonic the Hedgehog was as a comic book was published by Archie. A couple problems with that was that the agreement that he had a lot of holes in it. So, and when I say holes, I mean dates, I mean titles, things that you would expect. What we call a work made for hire agreement, which means that when a work is that falls under copyright law is created, it belongs to that the entity that's paying for it. So in other words, the artist is making a work but is hired to make that work. Therefore, the artist wouldn't have made the work out of his or her own inspiration anyway. So the work gets assigned, well, not really assigned, but when it's created, the rights are owned in the entity that's paying for it. And it's a common agreement, but you kind of have to have all the terms in that agreement. You should have the dates, you should have the titles that are worked on, you should have discussions of prototypes, you should have discussions in the contract about if you create other works that are derived from the original work as well. And this particular contract not only had holes, it was blank on some of the things. And of course, my client wound up creating storylines that weren't in the original outline because of how long he worked for it. He wound up creating characters that were not in the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I'll just say universe to take a word and move on. So he created new characters, he created new storylines, and obviously Archie Comics, said that, well, all of that belongs to us. And our argument was, well, not when you don't have an agreement that fully recognizes this particular situation. Like, yes, maybe the entire situation all by itself is, anticipated. You hire a comic book artist and maybe you're thinking, well, gee, if he's in here for 3 years, then we're going to have new characters. We're going to have new storylines. We're going to be selling new issues with all of those new things. All of that is, probably anticipatory, but it's not actually written in the contract. And in copyright law, you do not own the works without that work for hire agreement unless it's an employer-employee relationship. And in this particular case, the company, comic book companies don't hire writers, artists, and this is the thing that surprises a lot of people. All of those people are 1099 independent contractors. They are not they're not employees. So a comic book company does need to have a work made for hire agreement with everything that falls under copyright law. So that was our argument, and the most I could say is the case was settled. But what happened was the reverberations of that were felt throughout the comic book industry, and now artists do need to sign not just the work for hire agreement when they first start their work with the comic book company, but they do need to sign one every paycheck period. A lot of people do think that that's a little onerous, but what I think as an artist, if you're being hired for this, exactly what you're being hired for, because it changes every that's mentioned every 2 weeks. It's the title is mentioned, the dates are mentioned. Like you kind of know. I mean, look, if you're being hired for, DC Comics, that it's not going to be yours. Well, now there's no holes in any of these agreements, so that what the business arrangement is.
That's why it's so important to have everything written down. You can't take anything for granted with any contract or agreement that you're in. You have to have someone like you to help you figure out what are those tiny extra details that I hadn't thought about.
Right.
What should we be putting in there?
Right. And in this particular case, after the settlement of the case, and there was there's an obvious split when you look at the history of the comic book series, where Archie Comics rebooted the series from Sonic #1, minus all of the characters that Ken created, and then of course a lot of fans complained that there had to be a reboot of the series, and I was really shocked as an adult how many adults were reading Sonic the Hedgehog comic books. But did that harm value? Did that harm reputation? Did that harm sales? I mean, I don't have those particular numbers, but you would think that you would probably want to own everything and not have to reboot a comic book series if you're a comic book company.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense to me. But what do I know? So let's take a little break here. We're with Anthony Verna, and we'll come back and we'll talk some more.
Hey there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my new book that just came out called Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles. And here it is. It's how to successfully manage your money in every decade of life. I co-authored this with my CFO, Liz Levy. And together we created this manual that's going to help you through every stage of life. We talk about having a baby. We talk about young adulthood, pre-retirement, what to do when you're at that age of retirement. If you're contemplating divorce, do you need an estate plan? We cover all of these, each subject in a different chapter. And I really think that you're going to find this so helpful, because at the end of every chapter, we have checklists that you can look at and you can use, and they can be a guide for you. So this is a wonderful manual that we've created. It's available on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at judithheft.com/book. And we're here for you. If you need anything, reach out. I hope you enjoy the book. Here's another picture of it, just so you know what's going on. Here it is. And I'm really proud of it. It's my second book, and I'd love to have you read it and give me your feedback. Judy Heft, judithheft.com, financial and lifestyle concierge, celebrating 26 years in business. And over the years, I've learned so much. And what I've been trying to do is impart a little bit of this knowledge to you, so I can help all of you become as financially organized as I am.
And we're back with Anthony Verna. Anthony is an intellectual property lawyer. And so, I also remember, because I've known you for a while, so, we talk. And I know that there was an interesting fashion icon that you represented. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't know if you can mention names, but maybe you can give us.
No, I can. This, it's quite public. I represented Christian Lacroix for a case here in the United States. Mr. Lacroix's argument was that the company he founded did not have the right to use his name as a trademark outside of the apparel industry. As you know, of course, he is a fashion icon known for his apparel, and the company that he founded still, of course, uses his name. The problem with that, and he started this particular suit when he found out that his name was being used for, say, dinnerware or furniture. So the company that he founded expanded, and used his name, for those particular industries. The problem, with this particular case was that, once again, we're talking about agreements. The problem was that he had assigned the right for his company to use his name as a trademark, quote, in all goods and services, not just in apparel. And We had parallel cases in the U.S. and in France. It went up to the French Supreme Court. The French, which for those of us who speak French, le Code de Cassation, and the French Supreme Court ruled against him, saying, well, you signed the contract, and the language of the contract is very clear that this company gets to use your name as a trademark in all goods and services. You might not like the fact that it's outside of the anticipated set of goods and services that you founded, that you're known for. But the contract, again, the language of the contract is very clear. So with that particular ruling, we did not win, obviously, either in the United States, with the contract being as it was. But there was some thought that we could probably appeal, because the French appeals court did find for Mr. Lacroix. But like I said, the French Supreme Court reversed that. So we were kind of, stuck at that particular point. But yes, it was a fun case to handle. It was a fun case to go to Paris and actually do an American deposition, through the Geneva Convention. We had a few weird procedural steps in that case.
So I guess that word "all" in the contract was the problem there, right?
Well, of course.
I mean, you got to be careful.
Right. If you're going to, if your own name can be used as a trademark, you got to know and understand what the language is that you're assigning it to, especially when you do that. But he's not the first company founder that has problems with their own name as a trademark, especially when they leave the company, and he won't be the last.
Interesting. So say I have this really great idea and I want to patent it. I want to get on Shark Tank. So what should I do? I'm going to call you and say, Anthony, I've got this amazing thing. I know Shark Tank. Robert Corkin's going to want me badly. They're going to fight over me.
All right. So the first thing that there are two kind of questions, 1 and 1A. Question number 1 is, do you know how to make it? If you don't have to have a prototype in order to get a patent. That said, you have to be able to describe how this particular invention is made, in order to be able to take it, make claims in a patent, and also and also be able to get figures, get your abstract. I mean, there's a lot of parts of a patent that, is all about how do you make this, because that's a part of the disclosure. So if you don't know how to make it, we're not going to be able to get you a patent. So that's, and that's something that a few people, do stumble over. They have a great idea, but they don't know at all. Hey, I want to, transport matter through other things. And I'm like, yeah, sounds great. So how are you going to break down the molecules, and how are you going to, reassemble the molecules in the right order? Right. I don't know.
Good idea,
right.
though.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, exactly. But from a 1A standpoint, a practical standpoint, is what's your business plan? If you're coming to me with a new invention, great. I love new inventions. I want to see new inventions all the time. We want to help you, take this new invention, protect it, and grow. But what's your business plan? Do you have a business plan? If you don't have a business plan, we can help you get a patent, but you're going to be stuck after that. 95% of patents that are granted do not make a dime.
Right. You're telling us full disclosure.
Hey, I it's full disclosure. Now, a lot of those patents, yes, are owned by big companies. I mean, IBM is still the number one, patent filing entity in the United States, still to this day in 2024. And a lot of those patents are just kind of like little things that their engineers do and make, and they just, apart from the patent, it never sees the light of day because it's new, it's novel, but it doesn't really make any particular kind of business sense. A lot of the patents that don't make money are filed by small people who don't know how to implement it after that. So we can help you filing a patent. Yes, you'll have something that's protectable for 20 years. Yes, but can you make money on it? The fidget, you remember the fidget spinner from a few years ago, that fad? Yeah, well, it became a fad after the patent. expired, right?
Wow.
The person who owned the patent had no idea how to convince companies to make it. And then once the patent expired, companies, discovered kids had no problem, spinning the thing. So, it was a patent, it existed, but it really didn't make money until the patent expired. So,
It's interesting too, because I think that, a lot of small businesses, solo practitioners, for instance, don't have a business plan either. They just think, I was working for this company. I'm just going to take this and do it on my own, but they don't have any plans. They just think that they can do it. And it's so important, no matter what it is, whether you're applying for a patent with a new invention, a new idea, or starting a different kind of a service business, you really need to have a plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we do. I mean, my patent agent, Will, and I, we will sit down with the client and we'll say, look, you might have something here, but we're, and look, we're not, we're a law firm, so we're not allowed to counsel you on your business. But if you're coming to us and you don't have a business plan and you don't know who your consumers are, and you don't, then what's going to happen is you're going to pay us, and then you're going to be bitter because you've paid us for the patent that's not doing you anything. So we want you to at least think about those particular questions. If you don't know how to make a prototype, we can introduce you to companies that do prototyping. If you don't know how to manufacture something, we can introduce you to people who who are agents who represent manufacturing. And hey, if you're like, I know I need to make this in China, we can even introduce you to an American lawyer who has his own firm in Taipei and Shanghai that allows you to, who can help you with getting that particular contract and have boots on the ground, there. So like there's stuff that we can do to help our clients, with the business aspect of it, even though, of course, that's not a part of what we do.
Oh, that's so great, Anthony. I think you really helped a little bit of the mystique that's around patents and copyrights and, intellectual property and infringement, all that kind of stuff. So this was really helpful. I learned a lot from you. I'm sure our listeners did too. How can they find you?
So you can just go to vernalaw.com, VERNALAW.com. You could also call our office, area code 914-908-6757.
And I'm sure you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm LinkedIn. You see the name as it's in the as it's in the box here.
Great. All right, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Judy. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Thank you for tuning into Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Thank you for your positive comments and sharing this show with others.